Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today I'm going to work on a reel. I actually had a customer bring in a pair of these, and we did preview it the other day. This is the Daiwa Graphite 1650X. It's a rear drag reel. This one's probably made in the 1990s, maybe early 2000s. Overall, this one is spinning nicer than the other one is. The other one's a little bit bogged down, but overall it should be something that we can address. He asked me to clean them up and get them ready for the season, and of course we're almost in July now, but this is a reel that he uses in the Bay Area. He uses them for what we sometimes call summer flounder or fluke, and he also uses it for casting offshore. So very nice reel. This thing has what's called a silent anti-reverse, but I don't believe that means that it is a anti-reverse bearing in there. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's any bearings in this reel at all. From a pricing standpoint, this would probably have been on the value side of it as opposed to an expensive reel. And we're going to take it apart. We'll show you how it's made, how to service it, and how to take care of this reel so that it'll last for a long time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the back end of this, the cap that holds the rear drag stack on. That's held on by a screw. While I'm doing this, I want to thank all of our hometown heroes, the local heroes that have kept us safe during the pandemic. They include our first responders and essential personnel, all the MTs in health-related fields, the hospital workers and the like, and everybody who's looking out for one another during this pandemic. Thank you for everything it is that you do. Okay. I'm not certain how this handle comes out. Normally I would say this handle would come out in a turn, and it does. This is a screw handle. I was just kind of curious because this main gear extends a long way. That's kind of got the look and feel of something from the 60s in the case now. Most of these have the main gear that shuts off closer to the case, and when it shuts off closer to the case, you have this as an extension of the handlebar or screw. But in this case, this one is going to mold into the case. Again, you don't have a bearing here. That's a sure sign of that. You have a bushing, or you have the plastic case acting as that. All right, so we're going to take off the screw. It looks like there's only a single screw that's holding the side plate on here, so let's go ahead and do that. I removed that cap because I wanted to make sure that there weren't any screws that were hiding underneath it in terms of the side case screw. And let's see if we can just kind of pull that off. Now we can. All right, so this has got a nice little design to it. It's kind of traditional. It has a anti-reverse override. Look out for that spring. I guess that's the first caution I could tell you on that. This is a spring that keeps tension on the anti-reverse bar. It's a horseshoe spring. You can see it here. The bottom of the horseshoe is what's facing out, and if you are working on one of these reels, by all means, please take the time to take that out. Okay, next up then, we should have some kind of a connector here on the crosswind gear that's holding that in place. So it's probably a C-clip. Just mopping up here. So Daiwa uses a series of C-clips on a couple of their reels, as does Shimano. And there's two little clips that invariably are tough to do. And I just want to grab a pick or two here so I can hold one side and the other and try and get these off. And here's your second clip. It just takes a little practice and takes a little patience, but they will come out. And you'll notice my hand's probably going off camera, but you'll notice that I'm putting them into a parts tray to keep all those pieces and parts central. All right, when we do that, then we should be able to remove the axle shaft by pulling up on it. And while I have this off, we're going to go do a little bit of a cleaning. There's nothing going on the top here. I'm just going to spray this with a rod and reel cleaner at the moment, just get some of that dust and accumulated sediment and the like off. I'm going to use a kitchen scrubby just to use a mild abrasive just to kind of clean all of that stuff off. And then we'll just go ahead and wipe that down with a paper towel. And we're going to bring that over to the side. That goes into the parts tray. So a lot of what the maintenance of these reels is it's about cleaning and inspecting the parts, making sure nothing's broken, and then just re-lubing these because they do tend to dry out. I'm sure that the second reel that I have like that is much the same. Here's that anti-reverse override bar, and that's got a lot of dried grease on it, so that'll go in. And then this one has that traditional clip up top here, and that clip is holding the rotor in. So we'll go ahead and pull that horseshoe clip out of that. So just note the orientation on this, and know that this secondary loop here is going to the left side where that anti-reverse override is. That's going to enable us to take the rotor off then. And you can see that it might be called a silent anti-reverse, but this is a traditional dog setup with a spring. The spring has got a coil on it. Might be hard to see. It's got a coil on it right here, sitting on a post with a long leg behind that dog. So that's how that's working. You just want to take this off so that you can clean the pinion gear on it. You want to get the old greases off of it. We've seen that there is old grease, and that's the #1 cause for this being bogged down at the moment. I can imagine that the other one that I do, even though I won't do a video on it, is going to be even more gunked up. This is what I call pot metal. It's nothing fancy, but it does need to be lubed and it does need to be well maintained. While I have this off, we're going to make sure, we tested it before, this bail is working fine. And I get questions all the time, what should I do with the bail? People want to take it off. I tell you, it's only a spring hiding in here, and if that spring is functioning the way it should, leave it alone. There's a little extension ramp here that moves up and down. You can see how it moves up and down. When this is sliding, it's going to hit that bump, and that's going to trip the reel. So that's all about how that one works. And once you pull that out, we should be able to pull the main gear out as well. Now I'm just looking over here, seeing if I'm not going to get some interference from the that anti-reverse dog. There we go. So you can move that up and out of the way. You wind up disconnecting the spring. You push the main gear out. And we can clean up the back of this. So this is a good way to tell you to take pictures along the way, because what just happened there, I did notice before when we were discussing it that you have a spring on that anti-reverse dog, and as it turns out, that spring had to be removed in order to pull the main gear out. So if you weren't taking notes, taking pictures, you're going to wind up in a situation where that spring is hanging loose, and you're in trouble. All right, so what we've done here is we've lubed all of the teeth and the main face where that crosswind block is going to ride. We're going to reassemble that. We're going to push down on the dog now. We have to reset this dog, and we have to reset this spring. So the dog goes to the right. The spring comes over the back here, and it rests in a little groove right there. So that anti-reverse dog is reset now. Okay, we've got the rotor. We've already done a little bit of work with the bail, and I checked the teeth as I was cleaning them out to make sure that they were all aligned properly. So we can go ahead and reinstall the rotor now. And now we can grab this override piece. Remember, there's a hook there, so when you do this, you're going to see three things. There's a slot for the the clip to ride in. There's an indentation in the spool where the horseshoe clip rides, and there's a little trip over here on the side that that secondary U is going in for this anti-reverse override. I'm going to take our anti-reverse override, that's going to come up, and there's a little hole that seats in, you can see it there. And now we're going to work on putting that little crosswind block back together. And that'll ride like this. Okay, before I do anything else, I do want to show you the drag stack below. The crosswind block will probably come out. So there's a U-clip here. I just take out, you can see that there's a clip, it rides into two sides here. You want to remove that, and then your whole anti-reverse assembly is going to come out. You've got a plunger and a spring, and then you have a series here. You have a drag washer, you have a click washer, you have a secondary drag washer, and you have a bottom facing clip with two ears on it, an eared washer which you're going to ride in a channel. So you do that to check the drag washers to make sure they're not worn. Rear drag reels very rarely lose the drag washers. They're just, most of the time they're working in freshwater environments, they're not fighting big fish, but part of the service, this doesn't make sense not to address the drags, make sure that they're working properly. All right, we're going to take this canister and put that back in now. That's going to provide the pressure on the drag washers as you turn these up. I'm going to reseat that. And we have the clip that holds that whole assembly in. That clip only installs one way. There's a groove in the piece here that needs to ride in, so set one side, bring it over to the other, and make sure that snaps in, just like that. And make sure you see those clips on the bottom of the that washer. If you're not seeing them there, it's not installed properly. Okay, so let's go back now. We've got a couple of things to finish up on. We want to, this came loose as I expected it would while we were doing the work on that. We're going to bring our axle shaft in. Now, you can take this axle shaft off. There's nothing going on in the spool. It's just a plastic spool, so I didn't bother to take that off. But the axle shaft comes off. You would want to clean that. And you can put a little bit of light grease on it. Here you can see the two grooves where those C-clips ride. And that's the next challenge here, is we want to put this back in. You're going to pass it through your pinion gear, pass it through the crosswind block, and you're going to pass it into your set on the drag. That'll give you a rough alignment for those two slots, and that's where the C-clips come into play. So the first C-clip, there's no matter of preference here. I'll leave that out for a moment. So I'm going to put that one on the bottom just for fun. And most of the time you can press these in with your fingers. The second one, these are not easy to work with. Sometimes you might want to grab a little pliers or something, get you started that way, especially if you have bigger fingers. And see if you can't press down with fingers, using finger strength first. And if that doesn't work, go back to like a screwdriver's additional leverage. Okay, that finishes the second one. So we did the top and the bottom there. Now we have that shaft that keeps wanting to fall in and out. Let's go put that back one more time. And then once you seat that, we can get that little horseshoe spring. And we can put our side plate back on. There's two tabs up top for the side plate. They fit in the slots. And then our screw. Just trying to make sure I have the right screw for the hole here. Now this is where, if you wanted pictures, go back to your pictures and see is that the right one for the side plate if you got a little confused. Next up then we have our cap for our drag. Screw that up. And we can put the drag screw in. So if you like these kinds of videos, I'm going to ask you to subscribe. And if you do subscribe, I'm going to suggest that you hit the notifications button. That way you won't miss any of the episodes that I post. I work on all kinds of reels. This is one example of the many that I work on. And you can see the notifications. It'll tell you when I post, and then you'll be able to see if that's a reel that would interest you and learn from it. All right, we're just threading on the handle now. Give it a quick turn here. That's running nicely. We're going to put our spool back on. Spool tie down nut, and there you go. Okay, let's give it a test then. There you go, nice and smooth action. Let's wonder what grease will do, right? All right, so I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, again, please subscribe. If you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, just leave them in the comment section. I try to get back to all and answer what questions you have, regardless if it's about this reel or any reel in particular. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.